Hey, nappy friend, welcome back to our nappy little club. You're home now, and we saved your spot. Tonight, we are drifting back, far back, to a city of gold and marble, a place of silent whispers and echoing corridors. We're stepping into the Great Palace of Constantinople, a labyrinth of power, intrigue, and some of the most peculiar job descriptions in history. Imagine the cool, smooth marble beneath your feet, the air thick with the scent of beeswax, sea salt from the Bosphorus, and a heavy sacred incense that seems to cling to the very stones. The light from 1,000 oil lamps flickers, casting long dancing shadows that seem to hold secrets of their own. You probably wouldn't survive a week in the political snake pit that was the Byzantine court, but here, in this cozy space, you're perfectly safe and blissfully relaxed. It's all the fascinating history without any of the backstabbing. So, before your eyelids get too heavy, if you genuinely enjoy what I do here, tap that like button and subscribe to keep our sleepy adventures coming. After all, nobody wants to miss out on history, right? We love knowing where our sleepy stories are reaching, so feel free to leave a comment telling us where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always a quiet joy to see our little nappy community span the globe. So, dim your lights, tune into the soft, comforting fan hum, and ease gently into tonight's journey, because you're now officially in Nappy community. You're not just listening, you're an essential part of our Nappy family, where every night is soothing, special, and yours. You're safe, valued, and always welcome. You are Leo, and the first thing you learn in the Great Palace is the art of being invisible. Your world, once perhaps a dusty village in Anatolia or a bustling port in the Aegean, has shrunk and expanded all at once into this sprawling city within a city. The palace is not a single building, but a chaotic, glorious collection of halls, chambers, chapels, gardens, and covered walkways, all stitched together over centuries. Even the most seasoned officials get lost, a fact that gives you some small comfort. Historians a millennium from now will argue endlessly over the exact layout of this place, poring over fragmented texts to guess where the Hall of the 19. Couches stood in relation to the Chrysotriclinos, the Golden Throne Room. You don't know those grand names yet. You just know the route from the kitchens through the winding, damp tunnels to the outer halls where you must stand for hours. A silent statue in a simple tunic. Your feet ache. The marble floors are unforgivingly cold, the chill seeping through. The thin leather of your slippers. Your primary duty, for now, is to be a piece of the scenery. You hold a silver ewer of chilled water, though no one has yet asked for a drink. Your gaze is fixed on a point on the wall opposite, a mosaic of a rather stern-looking saint whose golden halo seems to mock your lowly position. To look at the faces of the nobles and officials who sweep past is forbidden. To listen to their hushed, urgent conversations is an even greater crime, yet it is the single most important part of your education. You learn to listen with your skin, to feel the subtle shift in the atmosphere when a powerful dignitary enters the corridor, the air itself seeming to bow in deference. Your existence is one of textures and scents. The coarse weave of your linen tunic, the surprising weight of the silver ewer, the smooth, cool feel of a marble column against your back as you wait. The air is a symphony of smells. The sharp tang of salt from the nearby sea, the heavy perfume of lilies from the imperial gardens, the ever-present aroma of incense and beeswax candles that signify proximity to sacred or imperial spaces. In the evenings, your duty shifts. You join a small group of other young eunuchs tasked with lighting the thousands of oil lamps that dot the palace. It's a strangely calming ritual, the quiet repetition of trimming a wick, pouring the fragrant oil, and striking the flint. With each new flame, a small pool of warm, gentle light pushes back the encroaching shadows. You see the palace in these fleeting, beautiful snapshots, a glimpse of a magnificent mosaic, the rich color of a silk curtain, the glint of gold leaf on a distant ceiling. You learn the hierarchy not through lessons, but through observation. You learn which shade of purple is reserved for the emperor alone. You learn that the Praepositus Sacri Cubiculi, the Grand Chamberlain, a man like you, a eunuch, can make even the most decorated general tremble with a single quiet word. You see the silent signals, a flick of the wrist, a subtle nod, the deliberate turning of a shoulder. This is the language of power, and you are becoming fluent. One of your silent duties takes you near a part of the palace that everyone speaks of in hushed tones, the porphyra. It is an unassuming chamber, draped in purple silks, where empresses give birth. Any child born in this room is porphyrogenitos, born in the purple, a mark of supreme legitimacy. You, who can never have a child, stand guard outside a room, dedicated entirely to dynastic succession. It's an irony so profound, it feels almost like a joke written by the gods. You are here to protect a lineage you can never be a part of, a guardian of a future from which you are forever excluded. But this exclusion is also your key. Because you are not a threat to the throne, you are allowed closer to it than anyone else. You are learning that in this gilded cage, the most powerful position is not to be the lion, but the unseen bird who watches from the rafters, learning every secret of the jungle below. The years have been kind to you, or rather, you have been kind to them, seizing each quiet opportunity with a soft and steady hand. The dull ache in your feet from standing in cold corridors has been replaced by the quiet confidence of someone who belongs. Your simple tunic has given way to finer linen, the hem delicately embroidered with silk thread in a pattern that denotes your rank. Cubicularius, a chamberlain of the sacred bedchamber. You have moved from the periphery to the very heart of the palace. The ewer of water has been retired. Now you handle the empress's jewels, the heavy, cool weight of gold and sapphires resting in your palms before you place them in her hair. You are no longer a piece of the scenery. You are the one who arranges it. Your world is now the sacrum cubiculum, the private world of the imperial family. This is not a place of grand pronouncements and stiff ceremony, like the Golden Throne. Room. It is a space of intimate, unguarded moments, which makes it infinitely more dangerous and powerful. Here, the air is softer, scented with the Empress's preferred mix of nard and rose water. Sunlight filtered through thin sheets of polished alabaster in the window frames fills the room with a gentle, milky glow. Your movements are a silent ballet of service. You lay out the imperial robes, knowing that the choice between the traditional Tyrian purple silk and the more austere dark blue linen will send a distinct message to the court about the Empress's mood and intentions for the day. You are the keeper of the imperial wardrobe, which is, in essence, the keeper of imperial public relations, and you are the keeper of secrets. This is your true function. Power in Constantinople is a river fed by 1,000 tiny, unseen streams of information, and you stand at the confluence. You see the slight tremor in the emperor's hand as he reads a dispatch from the Syrian border. You hear the empress's sharp intake of breath when a lady-in-waiting, a rival's niece, offers a seemingly innocent compliment that is layered with venom. You see which petitions are read with genuine interest and which are cast aside with a sigh of weary frustration. None of this is for you to speak of, ever. You are a vault, and your silence is the lock. Historians will one day debate the true nature of eunuch power. Was it substantive, or merely the resentful fantasy of bearded aristocrats who couldn't stomach seeing a half-man whispering in the ear of their emperor? You live this debate every day. You feel the contemptuous gaze of a visiting general slide right over you, dismissing you as mere furniture, even as he pleads his case to the empress, whose opinion you will help shape long after he has left. You have learned that the most important conversations are the ones that are never spoken aloud. There's a curious sort of code that develops in these chambers. The empress, a keen botanist, often arranges flowers brought in from the gardens. You've learned that a vase full of lilies means she is pleased and feeling generous, a perfect time to present a petition from a monastery you favor. But if she chooses the thorny, deep red roses, it is a sign of displeasure, a warning that no difficult matters should be broached. It's a beautifully simple, entirely deniable form of communication. Who could ever accuse her of sending a message with a flower? It's just a vase. But you know better. You are the intended audience, the decoder of this floral telegram. Your knowledge of her moods, her preferences, her secret anxieties makes you indispensable. There is a subtle humor in the sheer amount of work required to maintain an air of effortless grace. Before the empress retires to her chambers for an afternoon of quiet contemplation, you and 2 other cubicularii are a whirlwind of silent activity. Cushions are plumped and arranged in a precise state of artful disarray. A scroll of poetry is left open to a specific passage. A bowl of fruit is placed so the light from the window catches the dew on the grapes. It is an elaborate stage play of tranquility. This is the great irony of the court. Everything is performance, and you, once a mere spectator, are now a stage, manager, a director, and a key actor, all in one. You don't just hold the props, you decide which ones will be used in the scene. A small choice, placing a petition from the grain merchants of Egypt on top of the pile, or burying it beneath a request from a distant bishop, can shape the fortunes of thousands. The weight of it settles on you, not as a burden, but as a mantle. It is a quiet, thrilling hum of influence, a power far more satisfying than the brutish, loud authority of the generals you so often see bowing grudgingly before the throne you so faithfully serve. The years have been kind to you, or rather, you have been kind to them, seizing each quiet opportunity with a soft and steady hand. The dull ache in your feet from standing in cold corridors has been replaced by the quiet confidence of someone who belongs. Your simple tunic has given way to finer linen, the hem delicately embroidered with silk thread in a pattern that denotes your rank. Cubicularius, a chamberlain of the sacred bedchamber. You have moved from the periphery to the very heart of the palace. The ewer of water has been retired. Now you handle the empress's jewels, the heavy, cool weight of gold and sapphires resting in your palms before you place them in her hair. You are no longer a piece of the scenery. You are the one who arranges it. Your world is now the sacrum cubiculum, the private world of the imperial family. This is not a place of grand pronouncements and stiff ceremony, like the Golden Throne. Room. It is a space of intimate, unguarded moments, which makes it infinitely more dangerous and powerful. Here, the air is softer, scented with the Empress's preferred mix of nard and rose water. Sunlight filtered through thin sheets of polished alabaster in the window frames fills the room with a gentle, milky glow. Your movements are a silent ballet of service. You lay out the imperial robes, knowing that the choice between the traditional Tyrian purple silk and the more austere dark blue linen will send a distinct message to the court about the Empress's mood and intentions for the day. You are the keeper of the imperial wardrobe, which is, in essence, the keeper of imperial public relations, and you are the keeper of secrets. This is your true function. Power in Constantinople is a river fed by 1,000 tiny, unseen streams of information, and you stand at the confluence. You see the slight tremor in the emperor's hand as he reads a dispatch from the Syrian border. You hear the empress's sharp intake of breath when a lady-in-waiting, a rival's niece, offers a seemingly innocent compliment that is layered with venom. You see which petitions are read with genuine interest and which are cast aside with a sigh of weary frustration. None of this is for you to speak of, ever. You are a vault, and your silence is the lock. Historians will one day debate the true nature of eunuch power. Was it substantive, or merely the resentful fantasy of bearded aristocrats who couldn't stomach seeing a half-man whispering in the ear of their emperor? You live this debate every day. You feel the contemptuous gaze of a visiting general slide right over you, dismissing you as mere furniture, even as he pleads his case to the Empress, whose opinion you will help shape long after he has left. You have learned that the most important conversations are the ones that are never spoken aloud. There's a curious sort of code that develops in these chambers. The Empress, a keen botanist, often arranges flowers brought in from the gardens. You've learned that a vase full of lilies means she is pleased and feeling generous. A perfect time to present a petition from a monastery you favor. But if she chooses the thorny, deep red roses, it is a sign of displeasure, a warning that no difficult matters should be broached. It's a beautifully simple, entirely deniable form of communication. Who could ever accuse her of sending a message with a flower? It's just a vase. But you know better. You are the intended audience, the decoder of this floral telegram. Your knowledge of her moods, her preferences, her secret anxieties makes you indispensable. There is a subtle humor in the sheer amount of work required to maintain an air of effortless grace. Before the Empress retires to her chambers for an afternoon of quiet contemplation, you and 2 other cubicularii are a whirlwind of silent activity. Cushions are plumped and arranged in a precise state of artful disarray. A scroll of poetry is left open to a specific passage. A bowl of fruit is placed so the light from the window catches the dew on the grapes. It is an elaborate stage play of tranquility. This is the great irony of the court. Everything is performance, and you, once a mere spectator, are now a stage, manager, a director, and a key actor, all in one. You don't just hold the props, you decide which ones will be used in the scene. A small choice, placing a petition from the grain merchants of Egypt on top of the pile, or burying it beneath a request from a distant bishop, can shape the fortunes of thousands. The weight of it settles on you not as a burden, but as a mantle. It is a quiet, thrilling hum of influence, a power far more satisfying than the brutish, loud authority of the generals you so often see bowing grudgingly before the throne you so faithfully serve. A new chapter begins, not just for the empire, but for you. It arrives not with a grand announcement, but as a tense, hushed meeting in the Emperor Justinian's private study, a room you know better than your own. The news from Italy is bleak. The Gothic War, a grinding, bloody affair, has stalled. The celebrated general Belisarius, for all his tactical brilliance, has been mired in political infighting and logistical nightmares. He has been recalled. The air in the study is thick with unspoken frustration. The emperor, a man whose energy seems to burn from within, paces before a large map of Italy, his jaw tight. He needs a commander who can not only fight, but organize, pacify, and govern. He needs a mind that can see the entire chessboard, from the recruitment of barbarian mercenaries to the price of grain in Ravenna. And then he speaks the name. Narses' stunned silence descends upon the room, thicker than any ceremonial hush. The military aristocrats present, men with scars on their faces and dynasties to their names, exchange looks of utter disbelief. Narses, the court eunuch, the elderly keeper of the privy purse, you are standing by the doorway, utterly still, but your mind is racing. You know Narses, of course. You have worked with him for years. You've seen him meticulously balance the imperial budgets, his long, slender fingers tracing lines of figures in a ledger. You've witnessed his quiet, unyielding diplomacy in calming furious factions of chariot racing fans. He is a master of systems, a weaver of administrative webs. But a general? The idea is so audacious, so contrary to every tradition of Roman and Byzantine society that it borders on madness. In the days that follow, the palace buzzes with derision. You hear the whispers in every corridor, the sneering jokes in the barracks of the palace guard. Justinian is sending the old housekeeper to clean up Italy, one grizzled officer mutters to another, loud enough for you to hear. They laugh. Them. A eunuch is, by definition, the opposite of a warrior. You are soft, you are scheming, you are of the indoors. They are hard, they are honorable, they are of the battlefield. Masculinity, in their eyes, is a prerequisite for command. They look at Narses, now in his 70s, a man slight of frame and soft of voice, and they see only weakness. You, however, see the meticulous mind of a master logistician, a man who understands that an army marches not on glory, but on a full stomach and the promise of pay. They see a frail old man. You see the one person who might actually untangle the logistical knot that has strangled the war effort. For you and the other palace eunuchs, Narcissus' appointment is a thunderclap. He becomes an unwilling symbol, a test case for your entire station in life. In the quiet of the communal baths reserved for your kind, the conversation is electric. If he succeeds, he could shatter the marble ceiling that has always existed above your heads. He could prove that intellect, loyalty, and will are more important than the presence of a beard. If he fails, however, every prejudice against you will be proven correct. His failure would be your failure, confirming you all as nothing more. than glorified servants, unfit for true responsibility. His success is your hope. You watch as the emperor briefs him. There is a profound trust between the two old men, a bond forged over decades of shared governance. Justinian, historians will later argue, was a master of using men to their strengths. They will debate whether he chose Narses because he trusted his loyalty implicitly, a eunuch after all, could never sire a son to start a rival dynasty, or because he genuinely saw that Narcissus' unique administrative genius was precisely what the chaotic Italian peninsula required. From your vantage point, you see that it is both. Justinian needs a man who will be loyal not just to the idea of the empire, but to him personally. And he needs a man who can manage the fiendishly complex details of the campaign. Narses is the only one who fits. You hear strange stories that trickle back to the palace even before he departs. Tales of Narcissus' intense piety. It is said he will not finalize a battle plan without hours of prayer, seeking a sign from the Holy Virgin. The generals scoff at this, another sign of his unsuitability. But you wonder, you who have seen how faith can move mountains of popular opinion, see this not as weakness, but as another tool in his arsenal. He is building a narrative of divine favor, a weapon just as potent as any siege engine. He is a court politician, after all. He knows the power of a good story. As he prepares to depart, he is not fitted for gleaming parade armor. He is hunched over maps and supply lists, his questions not about battle formations, but about the number of pack mules available, and the loyalty of the Lombard chieftains whose troops he plans to hire. He is waging the war on parchment and abacus before the first sword is ever drawn. The empire holds its breath. A man like you has traded his silken robes for a soldier's cloak, and you feel for the first time that the fate of a distant war is intimately, terrifyingly connected to your own. An anxious quiet settles over the palace in the months following Narcissus' departure. The fate of Italy and the reputation of your kind hangs in the balance, decided by dispatches that travel at the speed of the fastest ships and horses. You, in your privileged position, are often the first to see them after they are unsealed. You watch the emperor read them, his face an impassive mask that you have learned to decipher like a sacred text. The early reports are not of glorious battles, and this, you notice, makes the traditional military men nervous. Narcissus is not making a mad dash for Rome. Instead, his letters speak of securing ports, of repairing roads, of ensuring the grain supply from Sicily is uninterrupted. He writes of meeting with the leaders of his mercenary bands, Lombards, Heruli, Huns, and paying them in full with gold from the treasury he knows so well. The generals in the court see this as dithering, as cowardice. He is managing an invasion as if it were the imperial budget, one complains. You have to suppress a smile. That is precisely what he is doing, and you understand with a clarity that eludes them that this is why he will succeed. He is conquering the chaos first. He is applying the logic of the palace, where systems and resources are the true foundations of power, to the battlefield. He is ensuring his pieces are perfectly positioned before the game truly begins. He is winning the war before the first. Major battle has even been fought, a concept utterly foreign to men who believe victory is found only at the tip of a spear. Then, the critical dispatch arrives. The parchment feels heavier in your hands, the scribe's ink darker. Narses has maneuvered his army to face the full might of the Ostrogoths at a place called Taganai. Their king, the charismatic and formidable Totila, is with them. This will be the deciding moment. The palace holds its collective breath. The next dispatch will bring news of either a stunning vindication or a catastrophic humiliation. When it finally comes, you are the one who reads it aloud to the emperor in his private chambers. The words are dry and military, but in your mind, they paint a vivid, incredible picture. You visualize the scene. Narses, the old eunuch, has chosen his ground with the cunning of a seasoned surveyor, forcing the Goths into a narrow valley where their superior numbers are less of an advantage. Before the battle, the Gothic king Totila, clad in jewel-encrusted golden armor, puts on a spectacular display of horsemanship, galloping between the two armies, tossing his spear in the air and catching it. A theatrical performance of martial pride. The generals in Constantinople would have seen this as a challenge to be met with an immediate, furious charge. But the dispatch explains that Narses did nothing. He simply held his troops in their disciplined ranks, forcing them to watch the show. You close your eyes for a moment, and you can almost hear Narcissus' quiet voice telling his men to be patient. It is not a battle of honor. It is a battle of wills. It is the ultimate palace maneuver, letting your opponent exhaust himself with his own arrogance. When the Gothic charge finally comes, a wave of heavy cavalry thundering down the valley, Narses unleashes his master stroke. He has placed thousands of archers, many of them Punic horsemen he had the foresight to have dismount, on his flanks. They do not fire in scattered volleys. They fire in a continuous, disciplined storm, a cloud of arrows so thick it darkens the sky. The dispatch describes the Gothic cavalry being shredded before they ever reached the main Byzantine line. They could not break through the wall of arrows. You picture the Goths, so full of fury and courage, their charge broken not by a wall of shields, but by the cold mathematics of 1,000 well-aimed projectiles. Narses held his center, his infantry a firm bulwark, until the Goths' momentum was completely spent. Only then did he signal his own cavalry to advance, sealing the victory. Totila was killed in the rout. The Gothic army was shattered. In the aftermath, a stunned silence falls over the palace's military establishment. They cannot comprehend it. A victory of this magnitude, won by standing still. It defies their entire worldview. A portly senator, whose knowledge of war comes from epic poems, questions you about it. "I don't understand," he says, his brow furrowed. "He won by not fighting? Where is the glory in that?" You look at the man and give a gentle, knowing smile. "He allowed the enemy's strength to become their weakness," you explain softly. "It is a strategy of exhaustion. Surely, my lord, you of all people can appreciate the effectiveness of wearing down an opponent until they collapse." The senator blinks, unsure if he has been complimented or insulted, and wanders away. The grumbling, of course, continues in some corners. Some historians will later argue that any general could have won with such a well-equipped, diverse army. But you know better. You have seen the letters from Narcissus' aides detailing the near mutinies of Lombard mercenaries, the prideful squabbles between Roman officers. You know that holding that coalition together, getting them to trust and obey a eunuch commander, was a diplomatic achievement as great as the tactical one at Taginai. Narcissus did not just command an army, he willed it into being through sheer force of personality and the promise of gold. He was the mind that made the machine work. The news from Italy is clear. A palace eunuch is now the master of the battlefield. And in the quiet corridors of Constantinople, you feel yourself stand a little taller. The victory bells have long since fallen silent. The war is won. Italy is Roman again. And Narcissus, the eunuch general, is now Narcissus, the eunuch governor. He rules the reconquered peninsula from the ancient capital of Ravenna. But a new age has dawned in Constantinople, and with it a colder wind blows through the marble corridors of the palace. The great Emperor Justinian, Narcissus' patron and believer, is dead. A new emperor, his nephew Justin II, now sits on the throne, guided, many say, by his ambitious and formidable wife, the Empress Sophia. And you, still a silent presence in the heart of power, watch as the narrative of Narcissus' glory begins to fray and unravel. The praise singers fall silent, and the whispers begin. The dispatches from Italy change in character. They no longer speak of brilliant tactics and shattered enemies. They speak of taxes, of land redistribution, of the vast sums of money required to rebuild cities that 2 decades of war had turned to rubble. Narcissus, the meticulous administrator, is doing exactly what is necessary, imposing order and raising funds to make the province solvent again. But his old enemies in the court, the military aristocrats and Roman senators whose pride he wounded, are masters of reframing. In the reports they send back to the capital, prudent administration becomes greed. Necessary taxation becomes tyranny. The eunuch who saved Italy is now portrayed as the eunuch who is bleeding it dry for his own personal gain. You read these dispatches with a heavy heart, for you know the language of political assassination better than anyone. It is a slow, methodical poisoning of a man's reputation, and it is brutally effective. You see the fruits of this campaign in the shifting attitudes of the new emperor and empress. They never trusted Narcissus, never saw him as anything more than a relic of the previous reign, a servant whose usefulness had expired. The Empress Sophia, in particular, harbors a deep-seated resentment for the power wielded by the old eunuch. The climax arrives with a cruelty that is breathtaking even for the Byzantine court. The order for Narcissus' recall is sent, and with it, the empress sends a personal gift, a golden spindle and distaff, the tools of a woman's work. The message, which spreads through the palace like wildfire, is as sharp as it is humiliating. Leave the governing of men to men and return to the women's quarters where you belong. It is a blow aimed at the very core of his identity, a denial of everything he has accomplished. It erases the victories at Taginai and reduces him once again to a palace thing. In that moment, you understand the terrifying fragility of your own position. Narcissus' genius was absolute, his victories undeniable. He reshaped the map of the world. But his power was not institutional, it was personal, granted by one emperor and revoked by the next. A general from a noble family has the loyalty of his clan, the weight of his name, the allegiance of the soldiers he has personally led. A eunuch has only the emperor's favor. When that favor is withdrawn, he has nothing. You look at your own fine silk robes, at the respect you command in the palace, and you realize it is all a reflection, a borrowed light from the throne. It can be extinguished in an instant. A dark and insidious rumor follows the recall, a story so potent that its truth almost doesn't matter. It is whispered that Narcissus, in his fury at the insult, sent a secret invitation to the Lombards, a fierce Germanic tribe, encouraging them to invade the very Italy he had fought so hard to reconquer. I will spin them a thread of which neither Justin nor his Sophia will ever find the end, he is rumored to have said. Historians will doubt the story, seeing it as a convenient way to blame a disgraced official for a new wave of invasions. But you, hearing the tale in the hushed corners of the palace, understand its true meaning. The fact that people can believe it of him reveals what they truly think of you all. They see you as a third thing, neither man nor woman, whose loyalties are ultimately alien and unknowable, whose capacity for calculated, cold-blooded revenge is limitless. You watch a young poet, the son of a senator who once penned odes to Narcissus, the savior now composing a new epic on the righteous downfall of the grasping eunuch. The hypocrisy is so blatant, so shameless, that it feels like a physical blow. The news eventually arrives that Narcissus has died quietly in Italy, a wealthy but disgraced old man. He never returned to Constantinople. His complicated legacy is now left to the mercy of chroniclers who will forever debate, was he a hero or a tyrant, a patriot or a greedy administrator? You know the truth is more complex. He was a man of singular talent who rose higher than any eunuch before him, and in doing so became a target for every resentment the world of men could muster. His story is a glorious, tragic epic, and for you it is a profound and chilling lesson. The heights of power are intoxicating, but the fall is unforgiving, and for a man like you, there is no safety net. The saga of Narcissus has settled deep within you, not as a story, but as a map of the landscape you inhabit. Tonight, the palace is quiet, the endless intrigues hushed for a few precious hours by the darkness. In your private apartments, a comfortable suite of rooms that speaks to your high station, you stand before a mirror of polished silver. The lamplight is soft, forgiving. You gaze at your own reflection, a face you have seen for decades, but are only now beginning to truly understand. There is no beard, no rugged jawline etched by sun and wind. Your cheeks are smooth. Your voice, when you speak, is of a higher register. For years you saw this reflection through the eyes of others, seeing only a lack, a negation. The world is divided into men and women, and you were defined by what you were not. But you are older now, and you see with your own eyes. You are not a lesser man, you are something else entirely. You are a member of a third order of being, of my third gender, as some future far-off scholars might try to label it. You exist in the spaces between the two great pillars of society. Because you are not a man, you are granted access to the most guarded of female spaces, the gynoecium, the Empress's private world. You can enter without suspicion, your presence no threat to honor or bloodline. You can listen to the quiet confessions, the political anxieties, and the personal sorrows of the most powerful women in the empire. You are their confidant, their servant, their friend. And because you are not a woman, you can leave that perfumed world and enter the starkly masculine domains of the War Council, the Administrative Bureau, and the Senate floor. You can stand beside generals and governors, your mind as sharp as theirs, your counsel is valued. You are a key that unlocks both doors. You are the bridge between the two worlds, and you are the sole master of the traffic that passes over it. This unique position grants you a profound and subtle freedom. You watch a powerful duke, a man who commands legions, grow pale with worry over the marriage negotiations for his 14-year-old daughter, his family's future, his political alliances, all hang on this delicate and exhausting dance of dowries and pride. You observe a young patrician, his mind clearly on other things, forced into a military career to uphold his family name. Their lives are circumscribed by obligations you will never know, the duty to a wife, the pressure to produce an heir, the endless grinding worry of dynasty. Your path is your own. Your wealth, your property, your legacy. They are yours to command and bestow as you see fit. Some see this as a tragedy, a sterile, lonely existence. You have come to see it as a liberation. Your ambition is pure, untethered to the messy, complicated needs of family. You serve the empire and yourself. And the two agendas, conveniently, are almost always aligned. There is even a spiritual argument for your state of being, a piece of rhetoric you find both useful and deeply ironic. Theologians, in their efforts to explain your place in God's creation, sometimes compare you to the angels. Like the heavenly host, you are said to be free from carnal passions, unburdened by the desires of the flesh. This angelic life supposedly allows you to serve with a purer heart, a clearer mind. You know, of course, the passions that truly grip you, the fire of ambition, the icy grip of fear, the slow-burning satisfaction of a perfectly executed political maneuver. Your passions are of the mind and the soul, but they are no less intense for it. Still, the angelic comparison is a useful shield. It cloaks you in an aura of sanctity, lifting you above the muck of ordinary human affairs. You are happy to let them think you are an angel, as long as they obey your quietly spoken commands. Historians will one day argue about your kind. Were you simply mutilated men, objects of pity and scorn? Or did you constitute a distinct social and gender category with its own rules, hierarchies, and identity? You live the answer to that question. You feel the sting of the soldier's sneer, the casual contempt of the blue-blooded aristocrat. But you also feel the immense, unparalleled power of your unique position. You are not defined by their terms. You are defined by your access, your influence, your indispensability. The laws of the great Justinian himself acknowledged your status, granting you the right to own property, to make a will, to ascend to the highest offices, even while barring you from others. You are a recognized piece on the imperial chessboard, a piece with a moveset unlike any other. You turn away from the mirror. The face you see is not that of a man nor a woman. It is the face of a court eunuch. It is a face of power, and it is yours. You are at peace with the paradox you embody, for in that paradox lies the source of your entire world. You are a pillar of the state, a confidant to the emperor, but you are not an island. To survive, let alone thrive, in the treacherous currents of the Great Palace requires more than individual strength. It requires a brotherhood. This is your other secret world, a community bound not by blood, but by a shared fate. It is a network woven in the quiet spaces of the palace, away from the prying eyes and judgmental ears of the bearded ones. It is in the steamy heat of a private bathhouse, in the dappled shade of a secluded garden pavilion, or in the richly decorated apartments of a high-ranking official like yourself, that the true nervous system of the Byzantine Empire comes alive. Tonight, you make your way to the baths reserved for senior court eunuchs. The air is thick with warm, damp steam, smelling faintly of marble and expensive oils. Here, the rigid postures of the court are allowed to soften. Robes are shed, and with them, some of the masks you are all forced to wear. You are here to meet with Eutherios, the Sakalarios, the imperial treasurer, and Theophanes, who oversees the vast imperial workshops. To the outside world, you are three powerful officials. In here, you are simply Leo, Eutherios, and Theophanes. You are colleagues, allies, and rivals. The conversation flows like a gentle stream, but it carries a powerful current. You begin by discussing a new mosaicist from Alexandria, his skill with shades of blue. Theophanes, whose workshops would employ the man, listens intently. The talk shifts to the price of wheat in Egypt, a topic of concern for Eutherios, the treasurer. But beneath the surface of these pleasantries, a different exchange is taking place. It's a delicate dance of probing and revealing. You casually mention your concern for the health of the aging governor of Ephesus. Eutherios, while lamenting the governor's condition, adds that the man's nephew has recently been spending a great deal of money at the hippodrome. A small, seemingly irrelevant detail, but it tells you what you need to know. That nephew is foolish, in debt, and likely cannot be trusted to succeed his uncle. Information like this, traded in the disarming intimacy of the baths, is more valuable than gold. It is the currency of your world. This is the nature of the Velvet Network. It is your greatest source of support. When a faction of senators attempts to pass a law restricting the inheritance rights of eunuchs, it is this network that springs into action. Messengers move silently between your apartments. A united front is formed. You use your collective influence, your access to the empress, your control of the finances, your management of the imperial household, to ensure the proposed law dies a quiet death before it ever reaches the emperor's desk. In these moments, you are a monolithic force, a silent phalanx protecting your shared interests. Yet, this brotherhood is also a cauldron of rivalry. You and Eutherios are allies tonight, united against the arrogance of the military aristocracy. But tomorrow, you may both be vying for the ear of the emperor on a crucial appointment, each subtly trying to undermine the other's candidate. It is a paradox that scholars will never quite grasp. The eunuch faction is both intensely unified and deeply fractured. It is a living thing, a sea of shifting alliances, coalescing to face an external threat, then dissolving into 1,000. Personal ambitions once the danger has passed. A crucial part of this network is patronage. You, now a powerful figure, have taken several younger eunuchs under your wing. There is young Michael, a clever boy from your home province in Anatolia, whom you have placed in a junior role within the palace administration. You guide him, teach him how to navigate the court, who to trust, when to speak, and most importantly, when to remain silent. He is your eyes and ears in the lower echelons of the palace. In return for your guidance and protection, he offers you perfect, unwavering loyalty. He is not your son, but you are creating a lineage nonetheless, a dynasty of influence built on shared experience and calculated mentorship. It is how this network perpetuates itself, ensuring that your kind will always have a hand on the levers of power. As you recline in the warm water, listening to the soft murmur of conversation, you feel the strength of this invisible web. The bearded nobles have their ancient family names, their vast landed estates, and their broods of sons to carry on their legacy. What do you have? You have this, a silent, intricate, and astonishingly resilient network of brothers in experience. You are the keepers of secrets, the masters of administration, the quiet hubs of information that connect every disparate part of the vast and complex empire. They may see you as solitary figures, but the truth is, you are never truly alone. You are part of a whole, a velvet network that is as soft as silk and as strong as steel. The years have begun to settle upon you, not like a heavy cloak, but like a fine, cool dust. You are at the apex of your power, a whisper away from the throne, your influence felt in every corner of the empire. You have amassed considerable wealth, not through crude extortion, but through decades of skillful management, wise investments, and the generous, strategic gifts of the emperor. But a new question has begun to echo in the quiet moments before. Sleep? What is it all for? The aristocrats you see every day have a simple, clear answer. They build their legacy in flesh and blood. They have sons to inherit their names and estates, daughters to forge alliances through marriage. Their immortality is dynastic, but your path is different. Your legacy cannot be written in a bloodline. The thought of your name simply vanishing, becoming a footnote in some dusty imperial record, is an emptiness you cannot abide. You need a legacy forged not of flesh, but of something more enduring. You have found your answer on a windswept hill, just outside the city walls, overlooking the deep blue expanse of the Sea of Marmara. The air here is clean and sharp, scented with wild thyme and salt. This is where your monument will rise, not a boastful statue of yourself, nor a sprawling villa for a family you will never have. You will build a monastery, a house for God, a sanctuary of peace, and a permanent testament to the name of Leo, the eunuch who served his emperor and his lord. This will be your dynasty, built of stone, mortar, and prayer. This is no passive act of charity. You do not simply write a draft on the treasury and walk away. This project becomes your quiet passion, the focus of your hours away from the palace. In your apartments, vast rolls of parchment are spread across your tables, detailing the architectural plans. You spend hours with the master builder, a gruff but brilliant man named Nikos, debating the precise curvature of the central dome, the placement of the windows to catch the morning light, the thickness of the walls to ensure the chapel remains cool in summer and warm in winter. You are building this place with your mind and your will, just as surely as the masons are building it with their hands. You meet weekly with the man who will be the first abbot, Father Demetrios, a man with eyes as clear as the sea below your hill. Together you plan the spiritual life of the monastery, but more importantly, you plan the art. The chapel will be its heart, and its walls will speak. You decide on a grand mosaic program. In the main apse, a majestic Christ Panto crater, ruler of all. Below, the Holy Virgin, flanked by archangels, And along the nave, scenes from the life of your chosen patron, St. John the Forerunner, a man who also lived a life of service and sacrifice in the wilderness. Your involvement is absolute, extending to the smallest detail. You visit the workshops of the mosaicists in the city. You run your fingers over the trays of tesserae, the tiny squares of colored glass and gold leaf that will be pieced together to form the faces of saints. You commission the silver chalices, the silk vestments embroidered with gold thread. In a particularly satisfying meeting, you haggle with a notoriously shrewd silk merchant from Tyre over the price of the altar cloths, deploying the same soft-spoken but relentless negotiating tactics you once used to settle a border dispute with the Bulgars. The merchant, sweating and overwhelmed, yields completely. You reflect with a private smile that securing one's place in the eternal kingdom often requires the sharpest of earthly skills. And in the narthex, the entrance hall of the chapel, there will be one final crucial mosaic. It will be your donor portrait. You have seen the preliminary sketches. You will be depicted, dressed in your fine court robes, holding a perfect miniature model of the monastery you have built. You are offering it up to the saint, your hands outstretched. Your face in the portrait is idealized, serene, pious, but it is unmistakably your face. Through this image, you will achieve a kind of immortality. For centuries to come, monks will light candles here. Worshippers will pass by and see your face. They will read the inscription beneath, Leo, Prepositus and servant of God, erected this holy place for the salvation of his soul and the glory of the empire. You are honest with yourself about your motivations in a way you can only be in the quiet of your own mind. Is this an act of faith? Yes, profoundly so. You believe. Do you do it in hope of securing salvation for your soul, weighed down as it is by the compromises and moral ambiguities of a life at court? Of course. But is it also for Leo? Is it an act of pride? A way to carve your name into the very landscape, to ensure you are remembered long after the family names of your rivals have faded? Yes, it is all of those things inextricably woven together. Your legacy, like your life, is a complex tapestry of the sacred and the profane. Standing on the hill, watching the stone walls rise, you feel a sense of peace that power alone could never provide. The nobles build on the shifting sands of politics and family. You are building on a foundation of rock and faith. Your legacy will have no heirs, but it will have guardians. It will be timeless. The sun rises over the domes of Constantinople, its gentle golden light filtering through the alabaster windows of your bedchamber. You wake slowly, cocooned in soft Egyptian linen. A servant enters silently, drawing back the heavy silk curtains and placing a silver tray by your bed. On it sits a small cup of hot spiced wine to ward off the morning chill, and a selection of honeyed cakes with nuts and dates. As you eat, another servant lays out your garments for the day. You have a crucial audience with the emperor this morning, a delicate discussion about grain prices in the Anatolian provinces. Your attire must be perfect. It is a weapon, a message, a shield. You run a hand over a deep blue silk samite, its color suggesting calm and stability. But perhaps the amethyst purple tunic would be better. It conveys authority, a gravitas befitting the topic. The most pressing challenge of your morning is choosing the correct fabric to project serene power. 500 miles to the east, on the bleak and windswept frontier with the Persian Empire, the sun is a merciless pale disk in a gray sky. It offers no warmth. Alexios wakes not to the silence of a private chamber, but to the coughing, snoring, and grumbling of 30 other men in a long, cold stone barracks. He is already shivering, the chill having seeped into his bones overnight. He swings his legs off his hard straw-stuffed pallet and pulls on a coarse, scratchy wool tunic that smells perpetually of damp and wood smoke. There are no servants, no silver trays, Breakfast is a hunk of hardtack, a type of dry, dense biscuit designed to last for months, and a swig of sour wine from a water skin. The wine is thin and acidic, but it provides a momentary illusion of warmth. The most pressing challenge of his morning is forcing down enough of the hardtack to fuel the day's patrol without cracking a tooth. Back in your apartments, you stand as your attendant drapes the heavy amethyst silk over your shoulders. The fabric is magnificent, woven with griffins in gold thread. It feels cool and impossibly smooth against your skin. You clasp a simple but heavy gold belt around your waist. The final touch is a single drop of expensive nard perfume behind each ear, a scent so subtle it will only be noticed by those who get very close. You are ready. Your battlefield is the mosaic-lined audience chamber. Your weapons are nuance, suggestion, and a carefully prepared summary of logistics reports. Your armor is a perfectly chosen shade of purple silk. On the frontier, Alexios suits, up for his own day. His armor is not silk, but larikion, a cuirass of hardened leather plates stitched together, stiff and smelling of old sweat and oil. It is heavy and bites into his shoulders, but its familiar weight is also a comfort. He straps on his greaves, ties the leather points on his worn boots, and picks up his massive oval shield, the scuton, its face painted with the emblem of his legion. His helmet is iron, lined with a thin layer of padding that has mostly compressed into nothing. His weapons are a long spear, the kontos, and a short, broad sword, the spathion, hanging from his belt. His centurion, a grizzled veteran named Marcus, barks the morning orders, a simplified, practical echo of doctrines written a century ago in a dusty military handbook called the Strategikon. Alexios doesn't know the book exists, but he knows the orders by heart. Stay in formation, no talking. Watch the ridges for movement. His armor is a collection of scuffs and dents, each one a memory of a close call. You look in your silver mirror, making a final adjustment to the hang of your sleeve. You feel a quiet confidence. You are a defender of the empire. Your work today, ensuring the grain supply is managed efficiently and fairly, will prevent riots in the cities and keep the bakeries open. You serve the emperor by ensuring stability. Alexios stands in the pre-dawn gloom of the muster ground, leaning on his spear. He too is a defender of the empire. He is the hard edge of Roman power, the living wall that keeps the Persian raiders out. But he feels less like a glorious defender and more like a man who is cold, tired, and hasn't been paid in 4 months. Historians will one day debate the morale of the Byzantine army, wondering if soldiers like Alexios were motivated by patriotism or just a lack of other options. Alexios doesn't think in such grand terms. He is proud to be a Roman soldier, but he is also keenly aware that his life is cheap. He fights because he is ordered to, because his comrades fight alongside him, and because the alternative is to be flogged or executed as a deserter. His loyalty is a practical day-to-day thing, a negotiation between duty and misery. Your day will be a series of quiet conversations in warm, incense-scented rooms. His will be a 10-mile march through barren, rocky hills where the wind cuts like a knife and every shadow could hide an ambush. You are both essential pillars of the same vast, sprawling edifice. You are the polished marble column in the heart of the palace, gleaming and admired. He is the rough-hewn granite block in the foundation, unseen, uncelebrated, but bearing an immense and crushing weight. The serene comfort of your imperial silk is paid for, in part, by the cold, chafing reality of his frontier leather. The audience with the emperor goes well. Your carefully chosen robes, your meticulously prepared reports, your soft-spoken but firm arguments, they all have their desired effect. A new policy for the Anatolian grain supply is provisionally approved. You feel the quiet, deep satisfaction of a job well done, of order imposed upon chaos through intellect and influence. As you are returning to your apartments, however, a different kind of chaos intrudes upon the serene rhythm of the palace. A courier from the Dromos, the swift imperial post, arrives. He is not a scheduled messenger carrying routine documents. This man is gaunt, his face caked in dust, his horse lathered to a foam at the palace gates. He carries a single, small scroll, sealed with the insignia of the general of the Mesopotamian theme. An emergency? The palace does not erupt in panic. It does not know how. Instead, a quiet electric tension suffuses the air. You are summoned back to the emperor's private study. The room is now filled with a different set of advisors, the top military commanders, the master of offices, the head of palace intelligence. The small scroll is presented to you, along with a corresponding cipher key, a small clay tablet, etched with a complex grid of letters and numbers. While the generals stare grimly at a map, your task is the dispassionate intellectual work of decryption. You painstakingly substitute the letters and numbers, your mind focused on the puzzle. Slowly, words emerge from the meaningless jumble. Sassanid raiding party, 300 horse, village of Akros burned, 10th Legion engaged, casualties await instructions. The decoded message is read aloud. The room is still. The generals begin to speak in low, measured tones. Their talk is of logistics, of troop readiness, of geopolitical implications. This is a probe, one says, his finger tracing a line on the map. They are testing our defenses at the pass, another argues. We must dispatch a mobile field army from Antioch. A show of force is required. A third, more cautious, suggests simply reinforcing the local garrisons. This is the great strategic debate of the age, a flexible mobile response versus a hardened static defense. You listen, your own mind calculating the cost. A field army would drain the treasury. Reinforcing the garrisons is cheaper, but might be seen as a weak response. War, for you and for these men, is a grand abstract game, played on a map with human lives as the currency. It is a problem to be managed, a crisis to be contained. At the very moment you are decoding the word engaged, Alexios is tasting blood and terror. The long, monotonous patrol had lulled him into a state of weary boredom. The sun was a flat, white coin in the sky. The wind was a constant, whining presence. He was thinking about a warm meal, about the last letter he received from his sister, when his centurion screamed a single word, "Archers!" An instant later, the air was filled with a high, thin whistle, like a swarm of angry insects. An arrow thudded into the thick wood of Alexios's shield, the impact a brutal, jarring shock that ran up his entire arm. He dropped to one knee, huddling behind the shield as more arrows rained down. Then came the second sound, a deep, guttural horn blast from the ridge above, followed by the thunder of hooves. The Persian horsemen were upon them. The skirmish was not a neat battle line from an epic poem. It was a chaotic, swirling melee of terror and confusion. Alexios's spear splintered on the shield of a charging Persian. He dropped the useless shaft and drew his sword, the Spathian. His world shrank to the few feet in front of him. There was the wild-eyed horse, the flash of a curved scimitar, the desperate shouts of his comrades, the horrifying, wet sound of steel striking flesh. He parried a blow that would have taken his head, his arm screaming with the effort. He thrust his own sword forward, a desperate, clumsy movement. He felt it connect, a sickening, soft resistance. The man before him fell. There was no glory, no triumph. There was only a gasp for breath and the frantic search for the next threat. The raid was over in less than 10 minutes. The surviving Persians wheeled their horses and galloped away, melting back into the hills. The silence that descended was more shocking than the noise of battle. Alexios stood panting, his heart hammering against his ribs. He was alive. He looked down. The man who had been marching beside him all morning, a young boy from Thrace named Demetrios, who was always telling bad jokes, was lying on the ground, an arrow protruding from his neck. The abstract word casualties, which you had so calmly transcribed in the palace, now had a face and a name. For Alexios, this was not a strategic probe. It was the death of his friend. Back in the quiet, incense-filled study in Constantinople, the meeting concludes. A decision has been made. 2. Legions from a neighboring theme will be moved to reinforce the border. It will take them 6 weeks to arrive. You have done your duty offering your counsel on the financial aspects of the deployment. The crisis has been managed. You will now move on to a meeting about shipping contracts for grain from Egypt. For you, the incident is a file to be closed. For Alexios, standing on a blood-soaked patch of dirt hundreds of miles away, the incident will never close. It will be a ghost that walks beside him for the rest of his days. In the weeks following the frontier raid, the incident fades from the daily conversation of the court, replaced by fresh intrigues and new priorities. But it does not fade from your mind. The decoded words, casualties, await instructions, have taken root. They are a stark reminder of the fragile reality that underpins the perfumed elegance of the palace. This memory guides you during a tedious but critical meeting of the Imperial Finance Council. The topic is the annual budget surplus. A celebrated general, fresh from a minor victory on the Danube, makes a grand proposal: the construction of a magnificent new triumphal arch and a public bathhouse in his honor. Another dignitary argues for funding a lavish expansion of the imperial silk workshops. The room murmurs in approval of these glamorous, visible projects. Then you speak. Your voice is not loud, but it cuts through the comfortable chatter. You do not speak of glory or magnificent buildings. You speak of numbers. You speak of the rising cost of iron in the eastern provinces. You speak of the late payment reports from the Mesopotamian theme. You speak of the operational readiness of the garrisons that stand between the empire and the Sassanid threat. You propose that the entire surplus be redirected, not to an arch, not to silk, but to a dull, unglamorous, and vital task, clearing the 4-month backlog of pay for the frontier legions and commissioning the state armories, the fabricae, to produce a new consignment of shields, helmets, and spearheads for them. The general scoffs. You would spend the fruits of victory on accounting? He asks with disdain. You meet his gaze, your expression serene. An unpaid soldier with a cracked shield is not victorious for long, my lord, you reply softly. He is a liability, an arch. Can wait? The loyalty of the men on our borders cannot. You present your ledgers, your logistical summaries. You fight your battle not with rhetoric, but with cold, hard facts. And in the quiet, stuffy room, you win. The council, swayed by your unassailable logic, approves the expenditure. Your signature on the bottom of a parchment scroll sets the vast, creaking machinery of the imperial bureaucracy into motion. On the frontier, the seasons have turned. Winter is setting in, and it is a winter of the soul for the 10th Legion. The raid has left them shaken, and the feeling of being forgotten by the far-off capital is a cancer in the barracks. Alexios's shield, damaged in the skirmish, has been patched with a piece of scavenged leather. It feels unbalanced, unreliable. Every day is the same monotonous cycle of patrol, guard duty, and shivering in the cold, all of it underscored by the bitter resentment of men who feel abandoned. Then, one day, the impossible happens. A long train of heavy wagons, guarded by a detachment of cavalry, rumbles into their dusty fort. It is not a visiting general or a new legion. It is something far more beautiful, the supply train. Crates are pried open, and the men fall silent, staring. Inside are stacks of brand new Skoutin shields, their painted surfaces smooth and gleaming. There are new iron helmets, new spearheads, new boots. Alexios runs his hand over his new shield. It is solid, perfectly balanced, the wood strong and true. It is a simple object, but it feels like a promise. It feels like someone, somewhere, remembers they exist. The true miracle comes in the form of a small, fussy man who sets up a table in the center of the camp with two heavy iron-bound chests. The paymaster. A cheer erupts from the men, a raw, heartfelt sound of pure joy. They line up, and one by one, they receive their wages. Alexios steps forward and holds out his hands. The paymaster counts out a stack of silver and bronze coins. Their weight solid and real in his palm. They are freshly minted, the profile of the new emperor, sharp and clear. Holding them, Alexios feels a sudden, powerful connection to the heart of the empire he is defending. It is not an abstract idea anymore. It is this coin, this shield, this tangible proof that he is part of something vast and powerful. That night, the mood in the barracks is transformed. The men drink and sing, their laughter echoing in the cold night air. For the first time in a long time, they feel like Roman soldiers again. You will never know the name Alexios. He will certainly never know yours. He will never learn of the quiet, fierce battle you fought for him in a committee meeting, a battle you won with a ledger instead of a sword. And you will never see the renewed confidence in his eyes as he hefts his new shield, a shield your signature paid for. But the connection between you is as real and as strong as the stone walls of the palace. In your quiet office, you look at the grand map of the empire on your wall. You see the thin line of the Persian frontier, and you no longer see just a border. You see Alexios. You see the thousands of men like him, the leather-clad pillars holding up the gilded ceiling of your world. Your two fates, one of silk and one of leather, are woven from the very same thread, spinning the endless, complex, and glorious tapestry of empire. And so our story comes to a gentle close. The threads of the palace and the frontier of silk and of leather have been woven together. The grand machine of empire, with all its noise and fury, its quiet intrigues and desperate battles, begins to fade into a soft and distant hum. You can let it all go now. The fates of Leo and Alexios are settled for tonight, their worlds continuing on, far away in the quiet landscape of history. Feel the weight of their stories gently lifting from your shoulders, the tension of the council meeting, the fear of the battlefield. All of it dissolves into the calm and peaceful air of your own quiet room. Imagine the monastery that Leo built, standing silent on its hill, overlooking the sea. The moonlight catches the gold leaf in the mosaics, making the saints in the chapel glimmer with a soft internal light. The sound is only the gentle whisper of the sea breeze and the distant rhythmic chant of the monks keeping their nightly vigil. It is a place of profound peace, a legacy of stone and prayer that has outlasted emperors and empires. It is a place of sanctuary, and that feeling of sanctuary is here for you now. You are safe within these walls of sleep, protected and calm. Every breath you take is like a gentle wave on that distant sea, washing away the cares of the day. Breathing in, you gather the quiet of the monastery. Breathing out, you release everything else. There are no more decisions to be made, no more battles to be fought. There is only this moment of deep, restful peace. The story is over, and your only task now is to drift. Let your mind float freely, untethered from any thought, like a single boat on a calm, moonlit sea. You are secure, you are comfortable, and you are deeply, deeply sleepy. The quiet of history enfolds you now, a soft blanket of time and tranquility. Ease into that comfort and let the gentle current carry you toward your dreams. You've reached the end of another cozy nappy tale. Sleep well, and remember, you're always welcome here. Sweet dreams, nappy friend.